here with me, Pegos with the Zero on Instagram. He's a super talented artist. And we're just coming off the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie this weekend. Kyle watched it at the proper weekend release time. I watched it Monday after my work trip, so it was fun to get back, get in the moment, just back into the Guardians. It's been like 6 years, I think, since we had a Guardians movie. And it was 9 years since the first movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time flies, man. It feels so compressed these days. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's James Gunn's goodbye to the MCU, too. Because he's no longer a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because now he's head of DC. So he's moving on. So the reason why this took 6 years, too, is because Disney dropped him because of the whole tweet scandal. So they dropped him, and then he came back and he finished the movies. But we have the final movie, and he is the director and the sole writer. This is the first Guardians movie where he's the only writer. So really
those
cool.
are some I didn't know that. Wow, this is really impressive.
Did my research before hopping on here this time. No, I'm just kidding. That's about it. My knowledge is done. Kyle will take it from here. But just so you know, we design shirts at thebestnerdyshirts.com. Go check it out. Kyle helps design stuff. We do not have any Guardians merch. We don't own the rights, but we have other cool shirts. Go check it out. And now we're going to jump into the Guardians of the Galaxy. Can I just say, this is probably the best Marvel movie since Spider-Man No Way Home.
Ah, yes. Spider-Man, No Entrance into the Domicile, yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
I enjoyed it more than all the Eternal stuff. I enjoyed it more than Doctor Strange.
Okay.
I enjoyed it more than the Shang-Chi 10. And the reason why I enjoyed it so much are the characters. I honestly saw some flaws with the story beats. Like, we jumped from like comedy to extreme sadness to sadness back to comedy beats, and it felt like we were jumping around a lot. I still love the movie. I still really enjoyed the movie. I still enjoyed the movie, even with the pacing stuff, because I am already connected to a lot of these characters. Peter Quill, Rocket, Groot, Gamora. I love this band of misfits so much. Anything they do, I'm like, I'm game.
I think, like for me, it's interesting that you noticed that because, I guess maybe because of the previous movies, I was already primed for, because that back and forth of immense sadness and like hilarity is kind of like that. That's what I expect out of Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of, So
it doesn't go that sad though. It was intense with Rocket.
Yeah. No, I would say it was pretty. I mean, my girlfriend and I were in the theater. She cried.
Yeah, it was the most intense emotional toll in any Marvel movie, I think.
I never felt so like emotionally connected, or like I never had such a strong emotional reaction to an otter with cybernetic arm implants,
or a raccoon.
Right.
I mean, Rocket too.
No, but see, that's the thing though. It's interesting because like those animals that like they would be cute on their own, right? But because they've been grotesquely manipulated, it kind of takes away from that. But at the end, because of their characterization and like the acting that took place, it leapt over that, right? And it was like back to like, oh my gosh, these characters are so endearing. And when they were brutally murdered, it really hit. It really hit,
Yeah, no. And spoilers just in case. I forgot to say that earlier, but we're just going to be talking about the whole movie here and the experiences. We're not trying to sugarcoat or hide anything. This is a raw review. It was, I thought, a really good villain because we have an evil villain. I feel like lately with Marvel, it's been like they're gray or they're evil and they're actually good. Or it's like even with Thor, right? Like the God Killer is technically a good guy, you know what I mean? But because of the hands that were dealt and stuff to him, were like, if you go through the other previous Marvel movies, I feel like the villains have always been gray-ish, not like evil, where this guy is just like evil. He's destroying his creations without even blinking an eye.
I think he is such a good villain in that respect because he is he isn't. He's like he's like a villain archetype, right? Like he's also playing into what I would say like I saw it as a criticism on science and scientific practices in general, just in terms of how we go about acquiring information, right? And like advancing technology, right? Like some of the most horrendous crimes of humanity and like other living beings have been perpetrated in the name of scientific advancement, right? And
I mean, World War II.
Right. With like the Nazi experiments and stuff on the Jews and stuff. Yeah. Like, and that's the thing. Through that horror came all this advancement, right? Does that make it right? Obviously not. But like at the same time, it's like that happened. And like now these days we're here to reap the benefits of that, right? Like it really makes you think. And I would say that like the High Evolutionary is that kind of character because he's obsessed with a perfect society, a perfect world, right? And when he first said that, like I thought to myself, I'm like, well, that's very relative on what you deem perfect, right? Yeah. Like, what's your standards of perfect, sir? Because I can imagine it's different to someone else what's perfect, right?
Yeah.
And I think Rocket said it the most succinctly, the best. He's like, you weren't trying to right the world. You just weren't happy with the way it was. Right. I'm paraphrasing. I'm sure it was slightly different, but I was like, really yes, exactly. You know, and also with his demasking at the end, I also saw that as like symbolic, right? Is that like he is discontent with himself, right? And so thus he wants to manipulate the world around him, right? Also, I forgot the word. Anyway, I just gotta say, I got a bone to pick with the High Evolutionary. So he's apparently like really scientifically advanced, like basically the equivalent of a god, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't have advanced techniques to regrow his face. Like he's not a skilled enough biologist to regrow his face. He just has a mask that is pinned to his helmet.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, if you look at his other creations, they're not beautiful.
No.
Not until Rocket solves the problem for him.
Yep.
I mean, so technically, I mean, that's why he kind of wanted Rocket's brain, right? Because Rocket was technically smarter than he was when it comes to certain areas of science, for sure.
And again, I felt that was another critique on science is like Rocket has what the High Evolutionary still couldn't get except through Rocket, which was intellectual novelty. He can actually think of new ideas, right? He can like actually problem solve. And the first thing the High Evolutionary wants to do is to dissect his brain.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but that's the thing. That's commentary on science is that like, we need to reduce it down to its most constituent parts and then see what makes it tick. And then, you know.
So don't want to go this way with this, but is he Disney? Is Rocket Raccoon James Gunn? And he's the only one that's done something truly creative where Disney's kind of scraping for something and they just can't. I mean, think about it. After James Gunn, the Russo brothers, the Infinity War, I don't think Marvel's been anywhere close to their peak since Infinity War when it comes to quality, VFX, writing, all that stuff where it's like the High Evolutionary, they like peaked and now they're like strangling to find someone's brain to dissect to try to figure out the next thing. Do you think James Gunn planned it that way and now he's like out kind of thing? There's also a moment too where Adam Warlock, which is a weird version of Adam Warlock, not the Adam Warlock I know, but he says everyone gets a second chance. Like, is that like a dig because James Gunn got a second chance to do this movie? Anyways, back on that little things I noticed from the movie.
You planted some mind seeds, Nick. I hadn't thought of it that way. Huh.
Anyways, I was thinking about that because I know Disney's struggling. I mean, it's to the point where they basically call their streaming service D+. Okay, on the next all right, let's jump back to this movie because I actually really enjoyed this movie. Not all the comedy beats hit for me, but a lot of them did. And most of the ones that hit for me were from Drax.
Yes.
I really liked his comedy beats. Mantis was kind of hit and miss with her comedy sometimes. Like it would, I thought it was funny. She always lands on her head whenever she falls somewhere. I'm like, I found that comical, but like her story beats and stuff felt like it was just off. And I also didn't like that you would have to watch the Christmas special to know certain things.
You know what? I never saw the Christmas special, so I was like, wait a minute, Kevin Bacon. Wait a minute.
Yeah, so in the Christmas special, we learn that Mantis and Chris Pratt are siblings.
Yes, I was like,
yeah,
like I kind of low key questioned that. I'm like, wait a minute, they're siblings? What?
Yeah, we learned that. We also get Cosmo the dog.
Yes,
from that, it's because Cosmo the dog's just there, and if you're just tuning in from what Infinity War was the last time we really saw the whole Guardians together. I think they were in the Thor movie for a little bit, but like the true, like we actually see them all together would be Infinity War. It's like, what's going on? Like they did so much.
It's interesting. I think though with that, Cosmo wasn't jarring to me because she was placed in context of the environment they're in. So we first see her in nowhere. Right, in the giant skull. So like
in the first movie, right? Yeah, in the first movie.
Well, yes, but also like we see her there again for the third movie, right? So it's like, oh, okay, Cosmo, yeah, she's supposed to be there, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, that wasn't too jarring, but that's a good point about the brother and sister thing, because that was kind of odd to me. I was like, what?
And it's just kind of a bummer that, I mean, it's mentioned really briefly too. It's not like it's a major story plot where you have to know that in order to enjoy the movie. It's just like a little side thing. Like, no, I can't because your sisters or brother, whatever. It's something along that line.
Is it because Ego was like,
yeah, Ego. Remember how he went around
hitting up all the alien
planets?
ladies? Yeah.
Yeah, because he was trying to make the perfect son or whatever to like pass on the powers or something like that.
Yeah.
What did you think of the soundtrack? Because the soundtrack's such a huge part to these Guardian movies.
Yeah,
and they either make it or they break it. So far, they've been making it. What did you think of the soundtrack? Were you happy having new tunes, or did you prefer it more with the older tunes?
So here's the thing is because with the new tunes, it kind of branched into my nostalgia. Because before in the other Guardians of the Galaxy, it was 80s and 70s, which was just a little bit before my time, right? Like I'm a creep, right? Like that.
Are you?
No,
I don't know. no.
I walked right into that one. But that song, I was like, I was singing along with it, right?
Yeah.
Because so and there's a couple other instances with the soundtrack. So like I liked it and I think it played well with the beats in the movie, right? In terms of like kind of testing the vibe,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was cool. So we enter the movie. Peter Quill actually has a really good character arc. I felt like they were stuck with Gamora's storyline from Infinity War. That wasn't James Gunn's call. I don't know if James Gunn would have actually killed her off and then like did this whole thing. And I thought with the Gamora, if she wasn't even in this movie, it would have been fine. I feel like her character didn't have to be in this movie. And it might have been nice if he was continuing to do more of these films to bring Gamora in, give us some time without Gamora, then bring Gamora back in kind of
right
thing, but obviously this is his last thing and he's trying to tie up all of the ends to the story he wants to tie up. So that's why we needed that completion arc from Peter of him getting over Gamora.
Yeah.
And I thought Chris Pratt, man, he has so much charisma. He is such a fun actor to watch.
I love the ending, the at the second ending credit scene.
Oh, yeah.
Like we're just sitting at the breakfast table with his grandpa and he's just like, I don't know why she wants me to mow her yard. Like just, and it's like, it's so anticlimactic. I loved it because it's not typical of the end credit stuff you see, right? And it's just like, and then it says Star-Lord will return and it's like, in what capacity? Because he's mowing lawns right now, so I don't know what's going on.
He's gonna be an Avenger. Yeah. he's on planet Earth. Yeah, and it was also nice to not have it be tied to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
It's its own thing,
We didn't have to bring Kang into it. Like
right.
Kang was controlling the scientific experiments. Even though I think this villain, the High Evolutionary, would be a better villain than Kang.
Ooh. He could. I could see it.
I wasn't a big fan of the way Kane was presented in the Loki film, I guess. And now there's so many different variations of him where it's just like, just have a Thor, or not a Thor, Thanos, a character that you can all unite to hate against. I mean, if he's going to take on all of the heroes, because this is a character that needs to take on all the heroes, so he has to be
right. He's evil enough to where there are real stakes, and he has reach and power that like matter, but he's also human enough to where like his reasons, his drives for what he's doing are relatable in some way, right? Kind of like with the Eternals, it was really hit and miss, you know, with that sort of, you know, plot. So like, I really like the High Evolutionary. I sad he died. Kind of would have liked to see a return.
We don't know though. Technically, we didn't see the death on screen.
We did. Hey, true. That's right.
They can always bring him back.
But speaking about the character arcs, I think that, I mean, like, honestly, like the biggest one for Rocket, dude, they could have done, if they did the same attention to detail for each member of the Guardians of the Galaxy with their backstory like that for each kind of movie, that'd be, if they could kind of hit that same vein, that would be really cool. Like, because like I was totally invested in how kind of like how we're seeing flashbacks, right, progressively through like his memory logs, right? And it was really cool, like especially the beginning with all the baby raccoons.
Oh my god!
You know, yeah.
And then at the end with the baby raccoons.
Yeah. Oh, that's where Rocky Raccoon comes in, dude.
Rocky Raccoon.
And like, I don't know. I think that every character got a pretty good cap on their story. So like
everyone except for like Mantis was weird. Like she's just gonna go off with these monsters. But I guess it kind of fits her character. She's kind of loony like that too.
Yeah, and also, like, I think your justification for why she was going off on her own made sense, right? She's like, I've always been attached to someone else. I've never, you know, tried to try things out on my own, right? Like go out on my own. So I thought that was a good, at least it was a believable enough reason, right? I love Drax's cap on it. Like, you know, at the end, he wasn't a destroyer. He's actually just a dad. You know, like that. Yeah. He's also a destroyer too. He killed a lot of people.
But he's a dad, and now he's a dancer. Throughout all the movies, he would never dance. And I think there's even jokes about people that dance. He's like, maybe you'll find a girl who is an idiot that, you know, because she doesn't dance or something. You know what I mean? Like he always had like a weird joke about dancing and stuff.
Yeah.
It was fun to see him let loose with the kids at the end, like for a good character arc, because I don't know what characters are going to come back if they want to come back without James Gunn. You know, it's so James Gunn, the world he created. It'll be sad to almost see someone else take over Guardians. And if this is it, I'm like satisfied. We don't need more than 3 sometimes. Sometimes too much of a good thing's a bad thing. I always think
nothing wrong with a good old trilogy.
Yeah, yeah. I always think of Community with Troy when he's eating a giant cookie and he's like eating the whole thing and he got sick. He's like, maybe too much of a good thing is a bad thing. You know, it's like I always think of that when it comes
learned.
And it's true. And we had the scene where they go to, it was like a butthole in the sky.
A butthole in the sky? Wasn't that the Thor Ragnarok or Thor?
No, it was that like spaceport. Remember, or the thing they broke into? It was like
the living organism.
Hole.
Yes. Yes, the living organism, yes.
The black hole, or should we say the brown hole?
Oh,
anyway. And that just looked weird. Like, I don't know what it was, but that whole sequence wasn't even necessary. I mean, we got a lot of good jokes in and like the comedy and the beats, and we got like close to death moments with Drax and stuff like that, but we go through all that to get something, and then it's just to get another key to somewhere else. Like, I feel like if that whole sequence was taken out, the movie might have actually have flown a little, or maybe connected a little better together. Because
remind me what it was they were getting.
They were after they wanted the code so they can do the thing for the heart.
Okay,
but then remember someone else already took the code, so like they go there to do that.
Right.
And
they actually bump into him pretty early on when they're like in the thing, right? It's like, oh, sorry, excuse me. You know. Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just there was no time to relax after the planet gets destroyed. We go from like major action scene from the planet getting destroyed to major action scene of them saving all the children and stuff like that.
Right.
And it would have been nice to have like an action sequence, breathe, and then go do it. And maybe the action sequence would have been getting the code, a moment to breathe and regroup, and then do the action thing. But that's just me nitpicking. Like, obviously, he's much more talented than me when it comes to writing and all that stuff. But the movie felt long. Did it feel long to you?
No, I was along for every minute.
Okay.
You know me, Nick. My suspension of disbelief is, I'm just like, oh, cool. Just shove more popcorn in my goddamn face. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It would have been cool to get maybe more backstory on characters instead of that action sequence. You know, you were talking about like everyone got the backstory treatment that Rocket got.
Yeah.
And it would have been nice to maybe get a little bit more depth. Because like, where was Groot in this story? Like Groot was hardly even anywhere to be found. They left him on the ship multiple times, and then he does do the thing, but he was the closest to Rocket.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was weird to not, maybe because it would have been hard. Maybe it's easier for a human and a CGI character to act together than for two CGI characters to act together. I don't know what the deal was with that, but I thought it was weird that Groot wasn't more involved, because like in the first movie, remember how Rocket was like super sad when Groot like sacrifices himself? He's like holding on to the twig. It was like this whole emotional experience and stuff, and you would think Groot would feel that way about Rocket because they're so close,
right?
Kind of thing. So it was weird, and Groot kind of looked weird to me in this movie compared to, because
he's thick.
He's definitely thick, but after watching this, I watched the first Guardians movie, which I love. I love that movie so much, the first Guardians movie. I prefer it so much more than this one too. It's just such a good movie. That first movie is so freaking good. And it's amazing how much Groot has changed style wise, because I know he got destroyed and he's like getting reborn, but he keeps coming back like looking different than his original Groot model, which is fine. They do that with the Hulk. They changed the Hulk. He's a CGI character. They can change it. And then at the very end with the new Guardians of the Galaxy, dude.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. He is Groot indeed.
Were you okay with him not saying "I am Groot" at the end? And he says, "I love you guys."
Sure, it's the final movie.
Okay.
It's the final one.
I just think it was weird. Like the whole time he could speak English. The whole time.
He at least only said it once. So that means it means something, right?
And it totally sounded like Vin Diesel when he said it too.
It did.
It totally sounded like Vin Diesel. I am Groot. But what else was going to mention?
I also like that we got justice for Kraglin.
Yes.
He learned to whistle. Finally.
Yes, that was a fun little story arc that happened there too. James Gunn's brother getting some screen time. Did you know that's his brother?
You told me, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And then what else I was gonna say? Gamora. Gamora's character arc was cool. Gamora is such a cool character. You forget how good her timing is for comedy too, because she has that like pissed off comedy where it's like, and it blends so well. I mean, all the different characters blend so well together with their different qualities.
She also, and I'm butchering what she said, because like if anyone knows the exact,
we only watched the movie once, just so you know.
If anyone knows the exact quote, let me know. But like, it's when Peter is trying to like convince her to like I still love you. It hasn't changed, and Gamora says like, stop using me as a reason to like. I can't remember, but like it was very poignant. Like I kind of went, whoa, that's a great point. Like that's a very insightful, like mental emotional statement to make, observation about what Quill's doing.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, oh damn, so that was a really cool moment. And I think like how her story ended was like, funny. I was like, hey, she's back with the Ravagers. Yeah. Like, cause that's the thing. like sometimes like relationships don't get back together after that sort of stuff. I mean, that's kind of a very rare occurrence, right? What happened to her, but like,
and she was very evil compared to even when we met her in the first movie. Or not evil. She was angry. She was this very angry person compared to the one we met the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, she was angry, but not like to the point she is now, kind of thing.
Just a little more spiteful, you know?
Yeah. And then, can you remind me really quickly, what's her sister's name? Nebula. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, that's who I was trying to talk about. I said Gamora. Okay, and then Nebula. We got to talk about Nebula.
Yes.
She is so good with her everything. I mean, I thought she did such a good job. She's such a fun character to have too in the group, with her almost raspy, upset voice all the time. And I didn't realize how much they yell at each other too. I don't know if it was just more in this movie, but they yelled a lot at each other, and there was a lot of curse words too compared to normal. I think in a Marvel movie, like I think there was an F bomb, there was a couple S bombs.
Well, it's cool, PG-13. Okay. You can say the F bomb once.
Yep, and they used it in the car, I think, right?
Yeah, they did. They did.
Oh, we got to talk about, I think, a waste of a character, which they did not need, Adam Warlock.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say it, Nick.
What did you feel about Adam Warlock in this movie? What's the point of even bringing him on?
I would say it's not. It's not what I expected for Adam Warlock, right? I feel that the reveal of the first reveal of Adam Warlock back in, I think it was the first Guardians, like after credits.
The Chamber, right?
The Chamber, yeah. Like I thought, Yeah. But I guess he's this Adam Warlock is like a reconstruction of him or something, like made by the High Evolutionary or whatever.
I don't. His whole story arc is with Thanos.
Yeah.
That's his whole point. Like, and now that Thanos is gone, it's kind of like,
yeah.
What's the point?
I mean, I guess they're a part of the he's a part of this new race made by the High Evolutionary now, the Sovereigns, right? And like, I don't know. At the end, at least they bookended it. He's like, oh, maybe I do understand. And of course, we understand his mind is like a child kind of still because of I forget what they said.
He hatched early, right?
He hatched early. Yeah. So like,
but basically, he's just like another Drax, though.
I guess so.
You know what I mean? Like we already have a character like that who's an idiot, which I thought was a fun scene.
Drax. Okay, here's the thing: Drax and Adam Warlock are idiots for a different reason, right? Or at least under different circumstances, right? And I guess with Adam Warlock, I was all right with how his story ended. And you know what? The group hug at the end was very symbolic of he's on the periphery, right? He's just, because he's just now realizing that he can, be a good guy, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, it was, the movie would have been fine without him too, I think.
Yes, I think so.
I don't think he was needed in the movie or that whole story arc that they had going to. It's like, it works. It's not like it didn't work. Was it the best Guardians movie? To me, probably not. I think if there was more of the darkness like we had with the Rocky or from Rocket Raccoon's backstory, I think it could have been elevated even more. Like
you wanted more darkness.
Well, I think those were the strongest parts of the movie.
Yeah,
those they were the strongest part. I'm not even saying darkness, but like the idea of like diving into that kind of dark space even more in this movie, because it was fun. I don't want to say it was fun to be, but it was nice to see that contrast, because Marvel does a thing where every time there's a serious moment, it's undercut by a joke,
right?
And that you really see that when you're with the group. He's having this heartfelt with Gamora. It's like, oh, your comms are on. Like, well, we were just hoping it was going to stop.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny. It's like, oh, yeah, it's funny. But every time there's a moment that was supposed to happen or be serious with the gang, it's always undercut by a joke. And we didn't get the undercut serious moments in the flashbacks.
That's true. That's a good.
And I think they hit point. And they hit stronger. Because it's not like, oh, we're about to feel this emotion. It's like, let us sit with that emotion. Like in Lord of the Rings, whenever we're hit with an emotional toll, we sit with it.
Yeah.
And we hold on to it with Frodo, with Sam, with Gandalf. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, what's it like, Gandalf? White shores. You know, one of these things like talking about death. It's not undercut with like Mary coming in like, yeah, you know, like you're like a hit on the head. You know, it's like we're in that moment. You know, we're able to like, and there's good build up to these moments.
Yeah.
And I feel like it gets undercut all the time. Like they pull the rug out from underneath the actor with a joke all the time. It's just like, let us sit in these moments because they're good moments.
Yeah.
They're great moments. The writing's strong, the moment's strong, the actors are doing good, and it's always undercut, which is kind of a bummer.
Keep the gravitas, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's why those flashbacks hit so well, because we're just in those moments with the flashbacks.
They did. I you know what? I have to agree, Nick. Yeah, they really do. I mean, like, comedy is great, but like when it undercuts every dramatic moment or serious moment, it cheapens it, right?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it'll work for those moments, especially early on. It would work, but like when you're towards the end and you're like really tied to these characters, like be in the moment with those characters, kind of thing. So,
yeah.
But overall, I really enjoyed the movie. Trust me, my critiques are very thin. I think this might be the last good Marvel movie, honestly.
You might be right, Nick.
I don't see a good bright future for Marvel looking at these trailers. Did you see the trailers?
For what?
For the Miss Marvel movie?
Oh yeah.
Marvel's movies. Like it's like, okay, so they're swapping powers and stuff. It's like, it's like I'm not connected to these characters. Like it's just, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough too because like there's two characters are from a show and one character's from a movie. So it's like you got to watch the shows in order to know what's going on with the movies. Like there's so much you have to do now just to be tied in with the story, where it almost undercuts the movies themselves because you have to be so tied to everything. The commitment level is so high now to just be involved.
You've got to be locked into the IP space, baby.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully every Marvel movie comes out and they're hits because that's free entertainment for us. Not free entertainment, but it's entertainment for us. We don't have to invest the millions of dollars they do, but if it's good, then it's good. If not, we're still going to be here probably talking about the different movies.
That's true. Time will tell.
Any other notes or last?
You know, one thing. It's the only Easter egg that I found out. So Fia Lavelle, you know who that is? So she's the kid, the at the end? At the end, yeah, that has like the fiery hands. Cool. So she is a young version of Quasar, who is who's a superheroine in the Marvel universe. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So she's the kid version, and there's even a theory that Love from Love and Thunder is her romantic interest later on as well. She grows up to be a superheroine as well, and yeah, so.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. And so they think it's not a coincidence that they're both kids at this point because they'll grow up into who they'll become, kind of deal. So look, like, you know, with the High Evolutionary being obsessed with Rocket Raccoon and like about his brain, and he's like, but you're just a stepping stone. You know how he essentially cheapens his creation, right? By like saying like you're imperfect. How could you ever attain this thing? Well, like I actually think that one of the reasons, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of his test subjects were mammalian in origin because of their higher order on the evolutionary scale, right?
I guess there was a turtle.
Oh, that's true. There was a turtle. You're right.
Yeah, we kind of got like I got like a.
We also saw some birds. We also saw some birds as well.
Yeah, a pig. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly mammals later on.
Yeah.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, there was a bat. There was a pig.
Yeah. Panda.
Panda.
But what we're just naming animals. But what I was saying is that like I think it's interesting that it would be a raccoon that would make those sort of discoveries because like if you think about raccoons. Right, like they actually have pretty high intellect, right? So like he's kind of already starting from a pretty good thumbs. Base. They don't have opposable thumbs though.
But they have thumbs.
They do have thumbs, yes. Yeah. This is a critique on his evolution chamber, and I think why he never gets intellectual novelty out of his creations except as like a seemingly like a fluke with Rocket, right? Mm-hmm. Is that like many of these it's, you know, evolution is the process by which species adapt over time in response to their changing environment, right? And what that chamber does is, I think it bypasses a lot of that, right? So like there's a lot of novelty that can be injected into that process. So like many of these adaptations and mutations come from like novel circumstances in the environment, whether that be biological, environmental, or symbiotic. Right. I mean, you've probably heard of the stoned ape theory at some point, you know, with mushrooms and like us, you know, early hominids, right? That sort of thing. Like you can't simulate that, like that novelty, right? Well, I guess you can to an extent, but each one, like each evolutionary path is unique, right? So like, it's very interesting. Like,
it's very true. Cause then he would have to design the world after it too.
Right.
And then it's basically like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah. He's evolving everything in a vacuum and then just plopping him on a planet. Right. And then also the fact that Rocket Raccoon is a raccoon, right? So like there are limited studies in their intelligence, but there are studies that say they can remember solutions like to complex puzzles up to 3 years. So they have some semblance of a long-term memory. Right. Yeah. And then like, you know, they have a comparable neuron density to those of primates. Right. Oh, wow. And then they have keen touch and auditory sense. I'm pretty sure 2/3 of their brain are dedicated to tactile, you know, touch.
They're very, they love the touch.
And that's why I love Rocket Raccoon's characterization is always taking stuff and like kind of like hoarding things like you steal batteries for no reason, you know, like that kind of thing. Right. Yeah. So I think that's, you know, it's no surprise to me why he was the novel intellect a raccoon would be.
And it was cool. I know James Gunn has stated that's his favorite comic book character is Rocket Raccoon. That was his favorite character even when he started doing the Guardians movies and all that. And you could definitely tell this is like a love story for Rocket. Yeah. He's the star of the show in this one for sure, even though he's passed out on the table for most of it, but he's still the star of the show. And at the end of the day, James Gunn made everyone fall in love with a raccoon, a talking raccoon, which is a huge achievement. I mean, I'm probably more connected to that character than Doctor Strange, than Wanda, than any of the new characters. Like I'm like that's the main character. I mean, Loki, we've been through a lot with Loki, but it's like, no, man, Rocket's dude. Like, I have so much more connection to Rocket now than I mean, I always liked Rocket, but at this point, it's just like, dude, Rocket rocks.
That he does. That he does, rocks. Man. I agree.
And I hope they don't ruin him after James Gunn leaves. Please do not ruin him.
Leave his story. Leave his story be. Yes.
Oh, were you surprised that they didn't kill off anyone?
No.
Okay. Because in the trailers, it alluded to them killing someone, basically. You thought someone was going to die.
Oh, okay.
He's just like all the cuts. And obviously all those cuts were in there for the trailer almost. When Drax gets shot in the chest and then he gets shot in the back and there's a hole in his chest. And then, you know, Rocket Raccoon's obviously out for a lot of the movie. Yeah. So the trailer shows him like on a breathing tube and all that. We see them carrying out Peter Quill at the beginning of the movie, but we didn't know if that was at the end. They're walking with his dead body and stuff like that. And then obviously his shot at the end.
You know,
where was his helmet?
Where
is his helmet?
That's true. Where is Star-Lord's helmet?
He always has his helmet behind his ear.
They had the suits. They had the Guardians of the Galaxy suits, but not his helmet. What the heck?
That makes no sense to me. Why? I mean, maybe they had to remove it just for that one scene.
Maybe.
But he didn't have the helmet at all throughout this whole movie. Yeah. And it's so iconic to him. Yeah. Which I thought was just weird. I don't know if that's like a thing, you know, like the actor's like, I want my face to be shown more. Right. So they get rid of the mask.
It's in his contract or something. And Chris Pratt's contract.
Oh, it's the character. Yeah. Actually, I think we talked for a good amount of time.
We did.
If you're still here, amazing. Please comment down below your thoughts and opinions and things we missed in this, because we definitely missed a lot. It's a long movie. Oh my God. Yeah. But we enjoyed it. Well, I'm speaking for Kyle. We enjoyed it. We definitely enjoyed it through text when we were texting each other about the movie and stuff like that. Every comment is entered to win a shirt from thebestnerdyshirts.com. Go there. Go follow Kyle on Instagram, Pecos with a 0. He's a super talented artist. Go let him know you came from AsArt, and we'll see you on the next AsArt. Woo!